everybody. This is the Flock Squawk podcast where we break down all news and information related to the Baltimore Ravens. And we've got some pretty significant news this week. I'm excited to get into it. First off, I want to shout out the Maryland men's lacrosse team for going 18-0, maybe the greatest lacrosse team ever assembled, winning a national championship last weekend. It's debatable. They didn't show up too hot against Cornell, but they were fading towards the end, probably because they had a 3.5 hour time disadvantage compared to Cornell. But they win a natty, 18-0, dude. I'm stoked about it. It's my alma mater, so shout out to those guys. Side tangent. I'm joined by my co-host, Chad Cummings. Chad, how are you doing today, sir?
Hey, what's up, guys? Doing good, man. Dealing with a little cold bug running through the house, but we're getting it done, man. The weather's nice up here. Been doing a lot of yard work, and this past week is pretty exciting in the football world. We had a rookie mini camp last week, and now we have OTAs this week. So seeing some of our draft picks in some Ravens uniforms is pretty exciting. So, and the Ravens are putting out these dope-ass Wired episodes on YouTube. I don't know if you've seen them yet, but
I have not. I've only read the articles.
Yeah, there's a 30-minute episode like inside the draft, so you see the draft process, which is pretty cool. And then they did a rookie minicamp episode too, and yeah, it's pretty cool. You get some insight on the meeting rooms of the coaches, and you get to see the players and the uniforms and stuff, and it's pretty cool. Check them out for sure, everybody.
That sounds awesome.
On Ravens YouTube channel.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I definitely want to check that out. Sorry you've got a cold, my friend. That's a bummer.
Hey, man, it is what it is. You know, I'll be good for the rest of the year once I get this out of the way.
Yeah, exactly. So let's start the conversation. Let's start with OTAs because there's been some controversy when it comes to one player in particular. I'm wearing his jersey today. Lamar Jackson, not attending voluntary workouts during OTAs. He hasn't been in the building yet. So we've seen Tyler Huntley get some reps. We've seen Anthony Brown get some reps. Chris Sims had some comments to make on this. He basically compared Lamar Jackson to Tom Brady, and he said, Tom Brady would be there, and he didn't start skipping OTAs until after he had won his 4th Super Bowl and all this and all that. Lamar claps back at him, says, hey, Lamar's being Lamar, Chris. I got stuff to do. I'm still working on my game. I'm still working on throwing the ball, still working on mechanics. He's been working with his receivers in the offseason outside of Owings Mills. I know personally I've seen sessions with him in South Florida working with Rashad Bateman and all that good stuff. So I don't know. There's a lot of people are split on this. The Ravens fan community is really split on this. Like a lot of people are saying that he should be there. He should be a leader, set examples. The other half of the argument is, why would he need to go to something that's voluntary? He's doing work in the offseason anyway. What does he gain from showing up and like practicing a system that he's already been under for the past 4 years? Two sides to the coin. I can see arguments for both. I have my own opinion, but I wanted to get your opinion on this. Do you think it's a big deal that Lamar is not at camp right
now? I'm not going to say big deal, like I said. But like you said, it's voluntary. It's only a few days. Or is it? It's like 1 week, week and a half, couple practices. I would have preferred him to come, because like you said, it shows, if you're volunteering to, show up and work with your teammates, even though he has already, like you said. I've seen social media posts with him working out with Bateman and Prochet and all of them during the off season. So he's taking the time, obviously, to work on his craft and be with his teammates. So it's not like he's not doing that, but it's a little different when you have 2 rookie tight ends in the system. You got a new center in the system. You got a bunch of undrafted wide receivers that the team seems to be excited about. So on that front, I'm like, I wish he was there, but I mean, it's just, the more practice you get, the better you're going to be when it comes to, the beginning of the season. So, but it's not necessary. So I'm not going to dive too much into it. Some of the greats never missed OTAs, like you said. Tom Brady didn't miss one until after his 4th Super Bowl win. I can see, like you said, I can see arguments on both sides of the coin, but he's not there. So,
Right.
I trust that he is still staying in shape and working out when he can. Maybe he has some family stuff he has to take care of, or some career. I mean, obviously for him, it seems like football is the main focus, but I know he has a daughter. I know he has a family. So, maybe some timing didn't work out. Maybe he planned on it. Who knows? Maybe he's like, fuck it. I don't care. I hope he doesn't have that mindset that he's like, oh, I don't need to be there, but we'll see we won't really, it's a variable that could affect the season, but will we ever really know? Like, if we lose game 1 against the Jets on September 11th, oh, it's because Lamar didn't show up to OTAs that week. Like, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe it could. You could argue that, but I doubt it. So we'll see. But there are a few other people that haven't showed up. Ben Cleveland's not there. He's a second-year offensive lineman that you would hope to see getting that work. Kyle Fuller, who just got signed, isn't there, but he's an old vet. And there's a few other guys.
Juwan James.
We're hoping to have. There was a chance that he was going to be available at the end of the year last year. We didn't make the playoffs, so I guess that wasn't. We weren't sure if that was going to happen. We didn't see if that would work out. But he's not at OTAs. I don't know if he's been working out at this facility in the off season or not, but that's a little worry. I don't know if that's. I guess I don't want to read too much into it. When it comes to July and it's voluntary OTAs, it's non-voluntary, it's mandatory OTAs. That's when we should get worried if some of these guys aren't showing up, because that's when you get into the contract disputes, if there's some issue there, if there's an injury or something. So I know a lot of people are reading into the Lamar thing because all off season they've been talking about him not signing a long-term deal, and now he's not showing up to OTAs. So they're just, digging deeper into this narrative that Lamar is, trying to work out a long-term deal, or he's trying to, go somewhere else or something. But in the moment, I wish he was there, but in the long term, it probably doesn't matter, because I'm confident he'll be there in July during mandatory OTAs, getting that work with all these younger guys. So, but we'll see. At least the bright side is that Tyler Huntley is getting a lot of work with the first team. So you saw how important that is if Lamar goes down, having a backup like that, have those type of reps. So that's where you gotta look at the bright side. Tyler Huntley is getting all these first team reps with Rashad Bateman and all that kind of stuff. So, and Mark Andrews
and doing well, by the way. I think one of the big plays that happened yesterday was he threw a 50-yard bomb to Rashad Bateman, over the shoulder catch. So, hey, shout out to Tyler Huntley. I like that. As far as the Lamar stuff is concerned, some other quarterbacks have not showed up for these voluntary OTAs either. And I don't know whether maybe COVID had something to do with it, where they had that one year where they were trying to just keep people out of the building, and then that just sort of stayed over. I know there's collective bargaining issues that are put in place that make these workouts voluntary. I don't know, man. I don't think there's a pretty prominent quarterback who's also missing OTAs, Aaron Rodgers. He was doing a golf tournament with Tom Brady, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes. I think they won too, by the way.
Yep. The old guys won.
Took the youngins to school, apparently, on the golf course. Good for them. Like to see that. But I don't think when Aaron Rodgers lost the NFC Championship game, you thought to himself, a voluntary workout in May, man. If I had just gone to that, we would be in a totally different spot. It kind of alludes to what you were saying earlier. Like, who knows what happens during the season? This is the time of year where everyone overreacts to guys showing up for something that is optional for you to show up to. I think it's a bigger deal that guys like Kyler Murray, who, he's had changes to the offense. He did have a legitimate controversy there in Arizona. I think it's more surprising that he didn't show up. He's got a new wide receiver in Hollywood Brown, who he's got to maybe build chemistry. I don't know. They played together in college, but maybe with the way that their offense works, I'm kind of surprised that he's not there. But what has really changed? I mean, I get it. Hollywood is gone. Rashad Bateman is your new number one, but all of these guys that we're talking about, James Prochet, Tylan Wallace, Devin Duvernay, Rashad Bateman, they were all there last year. If they had gotten, a major wide receiver signing, and it was a pretty prominent guy, like if AJ Brown, for whatever reason, we live in an alternate universe where he comes to the Ravens somehow. Let's say we decide to break him off. Then I would be kind of surprised if Lamar didn't show up for workouts, because that's a pretty big deal. You'd want to be on the same page with a Pro Bowl caliber receiver who had not been in the system before. So I don't know. I don't like when people compare people to Tom Brady. Tom Brady is an outlier of like the most extreme outlier you possibly could have. Anyone who compares anybody to Tom Brady, I'm just like, you can make connections, but you should never directly compare to a person. It's like, well, he didn't stop going to OTAs till after he won 4 Super Bowls. And it's like, most quarterbacks don't win 4 fucking Super Bowls, Chris Sims. Like, Joe Montana is the only other guy I guess you could say that about. And it's like, those guys are legends in the game. And Lamar isn't even 25 years old yet. I know he's opening up a restaurant. So maybe that had something to do with it. Yeah, he's opening up a restaurant. I think it's in Florida, near his hometown. So maybe that had something to do with it on the business side of things. But
yeah,
it's so hard for me to be worried about shit that happens in May, especially when, as you said, in July, that's when things are really going to start heating up, and they're really going to start, pads are going to start coming on. They're going to be going through scheme stuff. I think that's a bigger indicator of if there's something wrong. We do this every May with quarterbacks, any quarterback. It's not just in Baltimore. Like any quarterback who doesn't show up in voluntary OTAs, it gets blown up on the news because there's nothing really else to talk about, and you're looking for a story anywhere. And with a guy who is, let's face it, like a superstar of this league, you're looking for stories anywhere. And that's kind of what Lamar was alluding to in his clapback to Chris Sims. It's like, you guys, if it's got Lamar Jackson on it, you're going to report it and you're going to make a bigger deal out of it than you need.
That's the nature of media overall, not just in sports media, just media overall. You gotta, what gets people reading and gets people talking. Like we're sitting here talking about it. So
100%.
Media is, they dig in people, that's that's the type of world we live in, where they make bigger things out of little things, and just to get clicks and get traction so they can make money. And that's what they're going to do. But I don't fault Lamar for, clapping back, and, he's human, you're going to see that kind of stuff on your social media, and you want to defend yourself. So I'm not like one of those guys that are like, you should understand how it works and that you shouldn't let it bother you.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you prefer that? Do you prefer like a quarterback, like let's say he faces some criticism online from somebody, and do you prefer that they clap? Some people are like, oh, well, why do you even care what Chris Sims says? Like, why don't you just ignore it and move on? Lamar doesn't do that. Lamar sort of, if he receives any criticism, on the negative side, he's pretty quick to defend himself.
Yeah.
I like to think.
Personally, I'm a 31-year-old guy. I'm not a huge social media guy. I mean, I'm on Twitter a lot, following, sports and financial stuff and random shit like that. But I'm not like a poster mutt. When I create videos and stuff, I like to post it. But Lamar's in a different generation of like, his whole childhood is social media. So I'm not going to compare what I would do to somebody that's in a whole different world when it comes to social media. It seems like he's relatively active on social media because I follow him. So I don't think it's out of his nature to clap back at somebody when he sees something on his timeline. And like I said, I don't fault for him getting in his emotions a little bit and saying something, because that's just we're talking about kids younger. I mean, not kids, but young men that are like, 8 years younger than us, 5 years younger than us. And they live in this social media world outside of football in their personal lives. So yeah, I don't care either way, honestly. I understand why he would do it. And I would like to think if I was in that position, I could just shrug it off and like not even care. But you don't know until you're in those type of situations, and you don't know unless you put yourself in someone's shoes who's constantly on social media posting, stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, what do you think? I mean, I don't care that he's defending himself.
I think it's a new outlet, right? Like, I know Twitter's been around for a little while, but I think you're right. Like, I think some of the younger people that are in the league right now, they understand social media. They understand how it works. They understand that if they're being talked about, it's only a good thing, because let's say you subvert expectations and they have an amazing season this year. Do we give a fuck what Chris Sims was saying back in May? We can look at him and be like, I guess you didn't really know what you were talking. It kind of, in a weird way, it sort of holds media accountable. And then the media likes it, because if they're right about something, they can take all the credit for it and be like, oh, you see, this was a bigger deal than you guys were trying to downplay this story and this and that. I don't know. I think they kind of work in tandem with one another, and I don't really have a problem with it either way. I'm sort of like you. I think whichever way you want to respond, that's up to you. Like, you're your own brand now. I mean, we didn't have brands per se prior to social media exploding the way that it has. And I think players understand that. They try and elevate it as much as they can. Like I said, like Lamar's opening up a restaurant in Florida. You think he'd be able to do that if he wasn't, in the position that he was in? No, probably not. I think his social media and how he presents himself on Twitter, a lot of people say that he's a good follow on Twitter. I agree. I think he has a lot of interesting things that he does. He's just kind of an interesting guy in general. So I don't know if I'm worried necessarily about the OTA stuff. I know it would be nice if he built some chemistry with his new center, who I'm saying it right now, this dude's going to go to multiple Pro Bowls. I love the center we picked up in the draft. You saw my reaction when they got picked. I was just like, oh yeah, here we go. But another guy we didn't mention, Morgan Moses. He's done some and he hasn't done some things in the off season as far as the OTAs are concerned. Like, he goes some days he doesn't. So he's kind of like on and off. He goes and practices and does strength conditioning and stuff like that. But he's another guy. I don't know. I think it's a bigger deal that Kyler Murray isn't going to voluntary OTAs personally. But I don't know. I guess, do what you need to do. A weird thing is kind of like the coaching staff, when it comes to this particular issue and when it comes to Lamar in general, their response to it is kind of strange. Like, it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's contentious, but they sort of are just like, oh, well, when Lamar gets here, you can ask him that. And it's like, but they're in a rough position, right? Because they would want all of their guys to show up to camp, just because that's extra reps that you can get in, like you were saying. But I think with the collective bargaining, and then with COVID and how COVID sort of affected contact with players and stuff like that, I don't know. I think it's just kind of changed the mentality of some of these more veteran guys. I mean, we can say it now, right? Like, Lamar's a veteran quarterback. I know he's under 25, but he's been in the league now for 3 or 4 years, won an MVP. We can't put him in the same conversation as Aaron Rodgers. I get maybe he doesn't have the same hardware, but it's like, I don't know. The scheme hasn't changed a whole lot. They said, I read a report somewhere that like 85% of the offense is like pretty much the same. And there's only 20% that Lamar needs to pick back up on. So I don't know, man. It's hard to make a big deal about stuff that's going on in May. That's just what I think.
Yeah. We beat the horse on that. I mean, they're not even in pads,
Right.
I would be a little bit more concerned when it comes to Bateman, just because how much time they missed last year with Bateman's rookie year. Bateman had like a couple days of training camp before he got hurt. And then Lamar was out for 2 weeks because of COVID. So when Bateman came back, Lamar wasn't even there. And then Bateman got hurt again and missed the whole first month of the season. And then Lamar got hurt the last month and a half of the season. So him and Bateman missed a lot of time last year during Bateman's rookie year. But we know that they did a lot of off-season workouts together from, their social medias. So, yeah, they put in the work, those two specifically, on getting on the same page and being in chemistry together. So, yeah, it's not that. I mean, it is what it. We'll see. We'll see when it comes to July if he's there or not. I don't think. Yeah, I don't know. This doesn't raise any concern. I'm sure he just has some other stuff going on when it comes to family and career outside of football.
2021 was such a shit show. God, it was a shit show.
Yeah,
between COVID and then the injuries, it was doomed. It's like flying an airplane with no wings. It's like, yeah, it's going to get in the air for a second, and then it's not going to last very long. What a shit show that last year was. If you're a Ravens fan, it's only up from 8-9. And with all the things that happened in the offseason, oh my God, what a mess.
Yep.
Let's talk about OTAs real quick. We've made a lot of interesting moves in the offseason as far as guys getting signed. Brent Urban signed a 1-year deal. We get Kyle Fuller to add cornerback depth. Like, I'm looking at the depth chart right now. And again, it's May. So I'm looking at a depth chart in May and I'm thinking to myself, ooh, the possibilities. But there's a good chance that not a lot of these guys end up making the roster.
Sure.
But there have been some interesting developments. I'm going to start with the bad first, just because I think you should always get the bad news out before you put out the good news. And on a high note, that's what this podcast is all about. Jordan Stout and Justin Tucker. They're still getting on the same page. I guess Justin Tucker missed a couple 50-plus yard field goals because he's got a rookie holder, and they're trying to get their timing down. Again, interesting development, but he's a rookie, right? Like, I'm not. It's kind of bad news because you would hope that they would have chemistry right away, but it's just hard to be a holder in the league. And especially with Justin Tucker, a guy who relies on continuity and consistency and plays at such a high level. That's been like one of the big concerns that I've seen. I don't know. That probably works itself out by the time we get to July or August. That's it. That's all I have for bad news. I've seen a lot of guys put in a lot of good work, man. Dalen Hayes looks good. He had a couple possessions where he could have gotten sacks. Jalen Armour-Davis had a pick on Anthony Brown. One thing I've noticed about some of these drills that they're doing on social media, very turnover oriented when it comes to the defense. Like, they were running a drill where they had like 2 guys lined up on either side, coaches in the middle throwing the ball, and they're practicing making catches in traffic.
Yep. Which,
if you think about it, kind of makes sense because that's how it's going to be in the game, in a game situation. But they've been putting a lot of work in there. I don't know. Pat Ricard's balling out. I'm not surprised about that, but I don't know. I think there's been a lot of like really positive news stories coming out of some of these practices. Some really interesting things. Nick Boyle just had a kid. He looks great. Like, he looks like he's all the way back. So I expect that we'll have him by the time preseason games start. I don't know, man. Have you been following this really closely? Have you seen anything? We talked about Tyler Huntley. He's been kind of balling out. Like, he had a nice pass to Josh Oliver. We talked about the Bateman pass. There's been some really positive things coming out of these OTAs. Is there anything that you're looking at in particular this offseason? Like, I know the rookies, obviously, you want to check them out and make sure that they're making plays, but is there anything else?
Yeah, personally, when it comes to OTAs and, mandatory mini camp and obviously training camp, I love to watch what the rookies are doing and how they're looking. And I like to watch and hear about guys coming off injury and, seeing how they're doing. So it was positive to hear after, Nick Boyle's pretty lackluster season last year coming off his knee surgery. The reports, like you said, he looks like a completely different guy than last year. He's moving a lot better, so that's positive. Because it seems like we're going to be moving back. I mean, based on how we drafted, specifically the tight ends in the draft, we double down on tight ends again with two totally different tight ends. Maybe we move back to those like more tight end heavy sets and back more into the rushing attack. And Nick Boyle is a huge part of that system when it comes to blocking and catching. So hearing that good report is nice. Granted, they're just running around in cleats and shirts, and helmets, no pads, so there's not much physicality going on. So, but it is, and it's nice to hear that people are looking good, and who it looks like Marlon Humphrey is back. He was suited up, so that's good to hear. I saw that J.K. Dobbins, Marcus Peters, they weren't suited up, but J.K. was catching balls from the jug. So it's nice to see that a lot of these guys are there, and they're getting back into that mode of being around the team and working towards another successful season. So that's what I like to see during this time. And of course, you're going to hear a lot of positivity because, you have all the Ravens beat writers and, Ravens based journalists talking about the practices. They're not going to say a lot of bad stuff, and they're going to be more hyped about the good stuff. Same idea. But we were talking about earlier about the media. They want to put out good, positive stuff to get the fans excited and stuff. So you're not going to see much bad stuff, but yeah, it's exciting, man. It's football. We love to see our favorite teams, and we'd like to see our new faces playing in our jerseys and stuff. So it's all good stuff.
And having them ball out too. I mean, I like Jalen Armour Davis. I guess the throw was bad by Anthony Brown, but he picked it. It looked like a pick six. He was on his way to the house. I'm like, all right, cool. And yeah, you're right. We're not in pads yet, but it is nice seeing some guys like Brent Urban used to be a Raven. He's now back in the building.
Yeah, it's been cool to watch. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I wonder if, do you foresee them making any more moves? I know wide receiver is obviously something that has been talked about a lot. Will Fuller is still on the market, but I don't know, man. I would like to see the guys on our roster step up in a significant way. There are a lot of guys that are really positive further back in the depth chart, like Shamar Bridges, 6'4", 207 pounds. I mean, I like that. A bigger type receiver. Yeah. Isaiah Likely is huge. Our tight end group I'm super excited about.
Yeah.
The kicking stuff kind of concerns me. I hope that that's not an issue that lingers on, because it's like what really sinks a lot of what sunk us really the last year and 2 years before are just sort of the little things, right? Like centers snapping the ball too high, or like dumb stuff that costs us points later on in the game or whatever. But Justin Tucker's a professional. Jordan Stout, there's been a lot of positive things said about him throughout the camp. So I think that sort of works itself out. That's just a timing issue that they got to get down. I don't know. A lot of these guys, like a lot of the offseason moves that we've made, Mike Davis is in the room now. He's behind Gus Edwards in the depth chart, but he's ahead of Justice Hill. Not surprising. Vince Beagle is there. He's been doing okay. Brent Urban, really excited about. Derek Wolfe put out a tweet saying he intends to come back this season, and he's off the questionable list. So we're getting guys back. And if you're a beat writer in Baltimore, I guess the good news is there's been no catastrophic injuries yet.
Yeah, definitely. That's a big point.
As long as you have that, it's like I said, it's only up from there. As long as guys stay healthy, we're going to have a really great squad going into the season, which kicks off in like 3 months, dude.
Yeah.
I am just really excited for the season to start. I'm getting kind of football stir crazy a little bit. I forgot a few more pickups. Brett Huntley, we've got a third string quarterback now. Diego Fagot from the Naval Academy, we picked him up. Kyle Fuller, obviously adding to some cornerback depth, and maybe that frees up Brandon Stevens to go to be all over the field some more. I like it. I like a lot of the moves that we made. And I'm not sure we need another wide receiver.
Yeah, I've been seeing some positive stuff from these undrafted rookies that we got from minicamp. So we'll see how it all plays out. Do I think? Yeah, I think. Yeah, so wide receiver. If we add, I don't know if we add anybody yet. Maybe they do after. I think they want to see what they have first, potentially. Maybe after the mandatory mini camp in July, we'll see how that goes and see how these younger guys are doing. But yeah, with getting Likely, I think is a huge thing because you can kind of Likely is more like a hybrid wide receiver, tight end. So him, I think he fits that big wide receiver that we were hoping to get this season. I think he can fill that. I mean, potentially he can fill that void. So, and then like you said, you mentioned Bridges, who I've heard a little bit about positive things about. He's a huge, tall guy. Was undrafted rookie from Fort Valley State.
It's probably why he went undrafted.
Yeah.
No offense to Fort Valley State, but I don't know.
Where is that even at? Fort Valley State.
Yeah. I wonder if that had something to do with it.
Yeah. And also, I've seen some things on Twitter about Slade Bolden, the slot guy from Alabama. So we'll see how it all goes out. But I still think we need, even though there's some positive talks about Dylan Hayes, we still need a outside linebacker pass rush guy. I think Justin Houston's still available, so maybe we look that route, but I think that's still a thing we need. So I hope we get that done before mandatory minicamp because, we're still missing our top draft pick, Abo from Michigan, Tyus Bowser, who knows when he's going to be ready because he tore his Achilles on the last game against the Steelers. So we have Owe, and we have Hayes, Jalen Ferguson, who's, been a little underwhelming since we drafted him. But we need some out. We need a pass rusher.
Well, there's some interesting guys on the market, right? So recently Akeem Hicks signed with the Bucks. So it's possible that Ndamukong Suh is on the market, which I think would be fascinating. Carlos Dunlap is still on the market. He's been floated around as maybe a veteran guy that we bring in to fill that spot on a short-term deal. I don't know. I agree. I don't think we're done yet. I think work still needs to be done on the defense, but Brent Urban is a good signing, I think, to back up Calais Campbell at that spot. Sure. A lot of guys are going to get moved around. I don't know. It's been an interesting offseason. Marcus Williams seems to be doing great in camp as well. Our secondary looks good. Hopefully Marcus Peters comes back to full strength by the time the season starts. And then our secondary is going to be looking pretty legit. And then with the pass rush, I don't know, like there's Diego Fago, the guy from the Naval Academy. He's a four down type of linebacker, not very fast, but I think he could have a positive impact there. Got permission to play in the NFL out of the Naval Academy. So I don't know, man. Michael Pierce is there at nose tackle. So I don't know. There's a lot of new guys in the building, and it's exciting to see those guys get some work here during OTAs. So as far as player personnel moves are concerned, I wanted to talk about this because this guy deserves all of the respect in the world from the Ravens organization. Sam Koch recently retired, 39 years old. We kind of saw it coming, right? Like we had a conversation a couple pods ago about how when Jordan Stout was drafted, maybe they would release Sam Koch because it could open up, I think it was like $2.5 million worth of cap space, which oddly enough, $2.5 million is how much it costs for Kyle Fuller this year. So just something to keep in mind. It was almost like an exact 1-for-1 swap there as far as contracts are concerned. But longest tenured Raven ever, holds some pretty interesting records as far as the Ravens are concerned. He's the all-time leader in passer rating. 7 for 8, 82 yards. Yeah, 82 yards, 109.4.
And his first miss was his last game of his career against the Steelers.
Yeah. So, I mean,
That's hilarious.
maybe that was the moment where he's like, oh, it's time. I missed the pass. Maybe it's
Yeah.
time to hang him up. I doubt that.
Up.
I doubt that. Don't take that seriously at all. It's just interesting, the timing of that. He's been awesome. He's awesome, dude. He is one of those Ravens. He's going to make the Ring of Honor. Give it a few years. He's going to be there. He stayed on with the Ravens too. He's a consultant. Remember, we kind of had a tiny conversation where we were like, oh, it'd be kind of weird if we saw him in a different uniform, like if he could still play. He made the decision that he didn't want to do that, and now he's in the Ravens front office, which
that's
I
huge.
love. Yeah,
I was ecstatic to hear that he's going to stay and be a consulting / coach. To have Sam Koch, who's been with Justin Tucker his whole career, still there in the meeting rooms on the field to kind of work this new guy, Jordan Stout, through their process. It's kind of like he's never left, It's kind of like he hasn't left yet. So when you were mentioning Justin Tucker missing a couple field goals back to back with Jordan Stout being the holder, I was like, yeah, that sucks. But yeah, I mean, it's their first week of practice together. But the good thing is Sam Koch is there and they're going to work through it, as a group still. So the 3-team Wolfpack has become a 4th-team Wolfpack.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah,
it's just a different manifestation. Yeah.
You just have Sam Koch in a coaching shirt as opposed to in pads. So yeah, that's it. I was so ecstatic to see that. And then the Baltimore Ravens media team put on a great goodbye video for him. I don't know if you watched that, but everybody should go on their website or their YouTube channel and watch the goodbye video they did for Sam Koch and his family. It was basically a montage of past and former players and coaches and current players and coaches giving their respect to Sam Koch and to his family via video call. So it was pretty cool to watch because, Sam gets emotional and there's, you see a lot of the greats on there in the Ravens history talking to Sam. So it was pretty cool to watch. So I'd watch. I still haven't watched the presser yet. I still want to watch that.
It was really emotional.
Yeah, I bet.
Super emotional. It's one of those things where, like, the thing that I've learned from Pat McAfee and watching him and talking about the kicking game, it's all about consistency. Mm-hmm. And if you make a 16-year career, he was drafted in 2006, 16 years of consistency, you can't ask for a much better career, right? Yeah. I mean, he's the all-time leader in punts for the Ravens. His gross average punt, 45.3 yards, and he has 450 punts inside the 20. I mean, these are all Ravens records, right? He's a Super Bowl champion. He did a lot of innovation with different drops and different kicking styles that punters to this day still implement and put in their toolbox. Yep. And it can help them pin a team inside the 10. It would have been weird seeing him in a different uniform. I can't tell you how much I appreciate him still being in the building. The only other guy who has had a longer tenure with his team has been Aaron Rodgers with the Green Bay Packers prior to him retiring. Yeah, that was a weird tidbit that I found digging into some research. He's had some awesome moments. I remember the safety that he got in the Super Bowl against the San Francisco 49ers to sort of set us up to win that game. Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm glad he's there. And Jordan Stout has to be feeling pretty good too, because it's not like he came in, replaced the guy, and then the guy went off and did something else. He's still in the building to help him out. He's still going to be there. He can ask him for different techniques on how to drop the ball to make his life easier. He's got Justin Tucker to lean on to deal with the holding stuff. Like you said, it's like adding a 4th guy to the Wolfpack. So
yeah.
Hey, shout out to Sam Koch, man. That's great. A 16-year punting career. He's an OG. Like I said, he's been around since 2006 was his rookie season. It's wild. Congratulations to Sam Koch. It's a retirement that is well-deserved. And like I said, he's going to be in the Ring of Honor. Give it a few years, and he's going to be in there for sure. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I don't think they put punters in the Hall of Fame, but if they did, he'd be he'd be in there.
They should. They should have a bigger role for punters just because of the passing game and how like pinning a team inside the 10 or inside the 20 has become such a big deal now, because you've got these guys like Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady and Drew Brees and Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, all these guys who can break a game open regardless of where they are on the field. It's nice to have a guy 450 punts pinned inside the 20 in his career.
That's impressive. Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's Hall of Fame worthy if you understand the X's and O's of the game. It's a shame he missed that. He threw that incompletion. It'd be cool for him to go 8-8. That'd be insane.
That would be insane.
So congrats to him. That's awesome. We felt like we should shout him out for retirement. Another bit of news that came out, media related. There's going to be a 30-30 on the 2000 Baltimore Ravens. Have you seen any of the 30-30 documentaries?
I've seen some. Yeah, they're done really well.
They're done really well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They're awesome. And I think this one's a little overdue, because when you talk about great defensive units in the NFL, there's always this conversation. It's like, who would you rather have, the 85 Bears or the 2000 Ravens, right? Yeah. And there is a legitimate conversation in regards to those two teams and those defensive units that were Super Bowl champion winning defenses, essentially. I wonder if they're going to go back to like the very beginning of the organization. Because if you think about it, the Ravens were basically formed in 1996 after the very controversial move by Art Modell to move the Cleveland Browns to Baltimore. It's interesting. I was doing research on this. When the Browns first moved to Baltimore, it wasn't viewed very favorably here. It was a very cloak and dagger type of move. They moved in the middle of the season. Art Modell had been a very like outspoken proponent of teams not moving. Apparently there was a pissing contest with the Cleveland Indians. They were starting to get really good in the 90s. So this is like a baseball tie-in. Bizarre. They're the Guardians now. And Art Modell was pissed off because they wanted to build a new stadium, Jacobs Field, and he had he was the landlord of where they were playing previously, and he used that to like leave and just basically come to Baltimore. And it's just interesting that the Ravens organization, when they first started out, even in Baltimore, they didn't like it because they didn't like the way the move was conducted. 11 years earlier, everyone remembers Bob Irsay leaving in the middle of the night, and there was still some sour feelings about that. So weird to think of that now, because now if you're a Ravens fan, fuck the Browns, frankly. Like they're in our division. We hope they're awful for years. But I wonder if they'll go back. That's sort of a side tangent, but I wonder if they'll go back and sort of just rehash some of the old stuff, because it wasn't that long after that we had a Super Bowl championship.
Yeah, 4 years.
Yeah,
built a Super Bowl team in 4 years. No, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm sure they'll dive into that, because obviously the leader and MVP of the Super Bowl, Ray Lewis, who anchored that defense, was drafted that first year. So I'm sure they'll dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, Jonathan Ogden too. Talk about a fucking all-time draft. We can say like with a lot of certainty that the Ravens are they've got to be the best expansion franchise in the NFL, right? In terms of on-field success. They have to be. 2 Super Bowls already. We've seen teams that still do not have Super Bowl champions. The Bengals, they don't have a Super Bowl yet. This new iteration of the Cleveland Browns doesn't have one. We have 2 already. Jacksonville, who everybody was bitching and complaining that Jacksonville got an expansion team before Baltimore. They still don't have a Super Bowl. Tennessee. Yeah. Although, Tennessee they've had some like relative success, but you're right. They don't have a Super Bowl championship. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm stoked. There's going to be a lot of things to cover. I'm sure they're going to go ad nauseum about the Ray Lewis incident, right? That his acquittal for being part of a murder investigation sort of thing. Mm-hmm. I'm sure they'll go into that like they always do. We'll see some familiar faces. Trent Dilfer, Brian Billick is probably going to be at Shannon Sharp.
Tony Siragusa
is going to, I'm stoked. I can't wait for this to come out and we get a lot more information, and maybe it changes the debate a little bit. Maybe the 85 Bears maybe that argument, people get a little more context before they start talking about all-time great defenses.
Yeah.
I'm stoked. I can't wait. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm really excited. Anything about Ravens, I'm gonna absorb in and take it in and just, reminisce. And it's gonna be really nostalgic for us. Get to see. I'm sure they're gonna be, like you said, interviewing some of these greats, the best that ever did it. Ray Lewis, Tony Saragusa, Brian Billick. So I'm excited for it big time. And they always do a great. The 30 for 30s are very, very well done.
It's interesting because we were alive for that. Do you remember where you were for that Super Bowl 34-7?
I do. It's my first ever football game I ever watched. It was
really?
Awesome. Yeah. Yep. Down in our third floor in our row home in Baltimore, my grandma nanny was up. She won a pool. She won like a couple $1,000, and then we took the day off of school the next day. My mom. We were running in the streets. My mom and my grandma were like, "Oh, schools are closed tomorrow." And I don't know if they actually were, but we got the day off.
We weren't going anyway.
Yeah, we weren't. And then we went to the mall, and my nanny bought me and my brother Brad, who's you guys know from the podcast, bought us Game Boys. And I remember that's when I got my first Game Boy, and with her winnings from the pool. And then I got Pokemon Yellow, got my little Pikachu.
No wonder you're a Ravens fan. You got a Game Boy out of it.
Yeah, I got a Game Boy out of it. Yeah, it was my first ever game watching it.
Yeah,
I remember pretty vividly. That I don't remember like the game. I just remember my nanny screaming about the score because she won the pool and running it. I remember being outside that night after we won and being like, "We're not going to school tomorrow." Because how old were we? Like 9 years old, 10 years old? Yeah, 9 years old.
Even,
8, 9 years old. Yeah, good times.
Very good times. I remember where I was too. I was at the Levy's house. Shout out Eric Levy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we were there. I was doing daycare over there when I was a kid, and our family became good friends. And then we went over there to watch the game. And I remember just the score was just like a complete blow. Like talk about a fucking mismatch. Like, oh my God. And to be fair, that's one of the greatest defense. It is the greatest defensive unit of all time. I'm going to say it with respect to the 85 Bears, because they were also very good. But it was just what an awesome result. 4 years later, you've gotten this huge monkey off your back that teams to this day still have not gotten over, and then you go, what was it? After that, 12, 13 years later, you win another one when we were much older, and we can remember like the nuances of that particular game. So it'll be really exciting. There were a lot of personalities on that team, so it's going to be entertaining. Like Shannon Sharp and Ray Lewis alone. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be awesome. I'm glad that they decided to do it, and they deserve it, frankly. And it's been far enough. There's been enough time in between. It's been 22 years since they. So it sort of feels old, right? Like in a lot of ways. The uniforms are going to look funky. I don't know about you. I wasn't a big fan of the bee with the wings. The thing
dude, I would love them to do. I would love them to do a throwback.
Oh, I don't know. I like the bird. I'm talking like one game. One game they have a little throwback. Pay homage. Really? I don't know.
I would love to see it. The bee with the bee with the wings.
I thought it was a very franchise, like a new franchise kind of logo. You know what I mean? And then that's all. I'm not saying it's bad necessarily. It's just not my favorite design of all time. But you're going to see that. I mean, the league, if you think about it, like the coverage of games back then was so different. 2008 was really when you started to see like what you see on television. The scoreboard, the banner across that tells you the score. That didn't really start. It's almost like watching a completely different game. You can bet that I'm going to be like glued to the TV for that. I'm going to put all the,
of course,
all the stock in that I can. So, Other than that, that's pretty much it. It's kind of it's the dead time in the season. So there's not a whole lot else to talk about. I think we can wrap up the pod there. Chad, do you want to say anything to the people before we depart?
No, man. Just enjoy wherever you are listening. Enjoy the nice summer months, and go Ravens.
Go Ravens. Exactly. Caw, everybody. Hey, thank you to our new subscribers. We really appreciate you guys tuning in. It's nice to see our channel growing week by week. Thank you so much for that. And to anybody who hasn't hit that subscribe button yet, please do, so we can grow our channel and then we can have more interesting content later on down the road. And if you like what we talk about, or if you don't like what we talk about, if you think that we are completely off base on stuff, leave it down in the comment section below.
Yep.
And we will see you all next week, hopefully with some more news coming out of camp and any other developments that happen, especially with Lamar, because we all know that at some point he's going to get criticized for something. So stay tuned for that. We'll see you all next week. Caw, everybody.
Caw.